So if you are interested in creating content, or you're a beginner and you've done this for a while, or maybe even if you're on this journey already, but there's some limiting beliefs that are kicking around in your head, I feel like it's important for us to go through and sort of deconstruct or dissect those over time so we can basically debunk them so that you can move forward with a bit more ease. And the one that came to my mind today is one that clients have told me a lot. It's that they don't feel like they have anything to add. No value. This whole social media thing feels so saturated. What could they possibly have to say that would add to the conversation? And I think that's really interesting because what that to me means is that if a fact has been said in a content piece before, maybe it's a piece on, I always go to like dietitians and nutritionists, that's so weird. Maybe it's a piece on, it's like a travel tip, right? And it's somebody who's teaching you about which credit cards have the best points that you can redeem for travel. Okay, so there's a lot of accounts and a lot of content on credit card points and travel tips, tricks, hacks, etc. So yes, if we're just looking at value, maybe someone has already shared that fact or that piece of information before. However, one, if they didn't share it like today, it can be shared again. Two, even though they shared it once, doesn't mean all bajillions of the people on all social media platforms saw it. And three, the biggest difference between you and anyone else on social media and the value that you have to share and the value that they have to share is that it's how you share your value, why that piece of value is important to you, how you came upon that learning that we really care about. Yes, I want to learn the fact, but think of it like this. If it is the answer to a question that I could Google, or at this point, go to ChatGPT or some other AI source and find the solution to what I'm looking for, then why do I need to learn this information from you? Because whether we realize that or not, consciously or subconsciously as consumers and scrollers on these platforms, that's what we're wondering. There are so many options. Part of the limiting belief in your head is right? There is a saturated aspect to these platforms. And there are so many creators and there is so much information. So why do I want to learn it from you specifically instead of somebody else and instead of just searching for the answer on the internet where I could probably find it faster? It's because that the value that you have to share is then shaped, is colored by, is delivered in a way that makes me feel something that just wouldn't happen if I Googled and found the Wikipedia page for American Express cards and Delta. There is no humanity there. It's lacking in feeling. So what's interesting is the very fear that people express as beginner creators, this idea that it's a saturated market and I have nothing to add, and who would really care about the way that I have to share this information or my story at all. Both of them are untrue and both of them are actually necessary components in the content that you create. Not only do you have value to add that we need to hear, but the way that you add that value, the way that you tell your story is almost even more important than the value that you're sharing. That's why I champion people to show up with as few of their defenses up as possible. It's funny, when I sit down to record these YouTube videos, oftentimes, actually pretty much every time thus far, they're completely unscripted. I don't really know where I'm going. So my workflow is I hit the recording button on my like Zoom H5, which is how my audio is received. I stroll the 1.5 feet over to this chair. I maybe give a think for 6.5 seconds about the opening of the piece, which I'm sure could probably be better from a best practices standpoint, but that's not who I am really as a creator. I look to build an audience slowly and meaningfully over time as opposed to like go viral with one hooky, clickbaity piece and grab a lot of people like a cash grab. I think about it for a second, I hit the recording button, I sit down, and I start. Occasionally, I maybe say the hook once or twice if I'm not like totally satisfied with how it came out of my mouth, which is a thing you should do, by the way. Like, take your time when you record your content. Remember that you can always edit it down later. But then I share, and I share in the way that only I know how to share, which is imperfect and fresh minted in the moment and organic and spontaneous, and I come up with visual metaphors. At that second, I find my way down the hill as if I'm slaloming on skis. I don't really pre-plan any of this. But one, it feels really good for me to do that. Two, I've learned that my audience is really into the way that I tell stories. How? Because they straight up have told me in comments when I get to meet them, if I ever get to work with them. And three, if I showed up any other way, if I showed up and shared value in the way that I think I'm supposed to, this would feel awful. Maybe I could get through a video or two. Maybe I could even get through posting like that for a couple months. But eventually, I would totally hit a wall. I would totally burn out from showing up as this version of myself that I think I'm supposed to deliver value in the way that I think you want me to. Woof. It's just not worth it. So if you are a beginner creator and these thoughts are kicking around in your head, try and pull them apart for yourself. When's the last time you tried to show up and record a video, hit the big red button, and you're like, I don't even feel like anyone would care about this? That's the moment to pause and go, what the fuck? Why? Why do I think that? Why do I think that I don't deserve to take up space and share something that I genuinely have experience and expertise in? I deserve to take up just as much space as anybody else on these platforms. Why shouldn't it be me? And then why shouldn't I share what I have to share as myself in a way that I want to share it, consciously and purposefully chosen by me, authentically? Because babe, you're allowed. You can take up as much space on these platforms as you want. And yes, you can take up as much space in the world as you want. The gag being the more space you take up on social, the more space you will practice taking up, the more space you will be able to take up in life. So just go back to, the value you have to share is incredibly relevant, incredibly worthwhile. The way that you share it, just as, if not more important than what the value is. And remember that if I can Google for the answer, then there needs to be some reason that I want to learn it from you instead. We are hungry for information instantaneously these days. People are not wrong when they say people have very short attention spans. We want the answer to our questions. It is so much more satisfying when we get the answer to our questions, when we get the solution to the things that are bothering us from someone that we also really enjoy and trust. You have the opportunity to be that person for millions of people, but only if you start creating, showing up, and posting. So are you willing to do that? Are you? Let's talk about it in the comments. If you're new here, I'm so glad you found me. If you're an old friend, I'm glad you're here. Like, subscribe, comment, and go check out any of the other videos on this channel about content creation, about authenticity, or if for some reason you're very curious about Japan, I've got a whole vlog on that too. I'm Justin Schumann, and I will see you again real soon.